Hi everyone, welcome to my tutorial on how I draw faces. And in this video, I have broken it down into sections, which you can see on the screen, so you can skip to whichever part you want to watch. But before we get started, I do want to say that this video is sponsored by Skillshare, and I want to thank them for sponsoring another one of my videos. If you guys haven't watched the previous ones that I've done with them, they will be in the cards section. But basically, Skillshare is an online learning community for creators taught by fellow creators. And they've got a range of classes from design classes and business classes and so much more. And you can actually get unlimited access to all of these with a premium membership, which is an annual subscription, and you pay less than $10 a month. What I actually love about this platform is that some of the teachers can provide a worksheet or a project or an assignment for you to do, and you can post it back on the platform and get feedback from the teacher as well as from people who are also watching the class. So I do think it's really good value for money, and it's a really great resource that I highly recommend. And because this is sponsored by Skillshare, you guys can actually sign up using the link in the description box to get your 2-month free trial of their premium membership. I will also list down in the description box some Skillshare classes that I found helpful that you can hopefully watch along with my very own tutorial, because I do recommend learning from as many resources as possible, and Skillshare is definitely one of them. And once again, they are all in the description box, so please check them out. Now, moving on to the tutorial. Let's start with drawing the head. And I like to use two main shapes, the first one being the circle. And the size of the circle that we're going to draw pretty much defines the size of the head. So the smaller the circle, the smaller the head. And the bigger the circle, the bigger the head. And the next shape is the inverted triangle. And the height of this triangle actually defines the shape of the jaw that we want to draw. So for example, for a pointy jaw, we'll have to draw a tall triangle. However, a square jaw is a short triangle. And the next thing I like to take note of is the distance between the circle and the inverted triangle, because changing this distance can help us create a range of face shapes, such as an oval face shape, a square face shape, and a triangle face shape. And there are actually 3 main combinations that I like to use, which you can see on the screen, but for the demonstration I will be using the first combination and the most common one. Now that we have the basic head shape, let's add in the guidelines for the facial proportions, which is the ratio that I like to use. So let's start by dividing the head into 2 vertical sections and 6 horizontal sections, so that we end up with a total of 7 horizontal lines. And I've named each line as line 1, 2, 3, and so on, so that it's easier to explain. But basically, line 1 is for the top of the head. Line 2 is for the hairline. Line 3 is for the eyebrows. Line 4, which is the halfway point of the head, is for the eyes. Line 5 is for the nose. Line 6 is for the mouth. And lastly, line 7 is for the chin. Now that we have the guidelines, we can start adding in the facial features, starting with the eyes. When drawing the eyes, I like to start with a basic leaf shape on line 4. And the height of this shape can determine how big or how small the eyes we want to draw. I also like to take note of the outer point, because changing the placement of this, whether it's a little bit higher up or a little bit lower, it can give us a range of eye shapes, such as an almond eye shape or a downturned eye shape. And the next shape that we draw is the circle in the middle, which is the iris. And of course, when you move this to the left or to the right, it indicates the direction of the person's gaze. And then we also have an arch above the eye to indicate the eyelid or the crease of the eye. Now, the distance of this to the eye gives us a range of eye shapes once again. So for example, a monolid or deep set eyes. And also changing the angle of this can give us either upturned eyes or downturned eyes. And the last thing I like to take note of is the distance of the left eye to the right eye. Normally, this distance is another eye. However, you can draw the eyes closer together for close-set eyes or further apart for wide-set eyes. When drawing the eyebrows, I always draw it below line 3, and I start with a simple arch. Then I make one side thicker than the other. That's basically it. However, changing the height of this arch can either give us a nicely arched brow or a straight brow. When drawing the nose, I like to start with a circle just above line 5, and the size of this circle can give us a range of nose shapes. So for example, the smaller the circle, the pointier and narrow the nose usually is, whereas a bigger circle creates a wider and rounder nose. I then draw 2 arches for the nostrils, and the height and angle of this arch can also be changed for a bit of diversity. I also like to draw 2 more lines that look like the letter C to complete the nose, and the final touch are 2 lines for the bridge of the nose, so it connects down from the eyebrows to the circle that we drew for the nose. And you can draw this as light or as heavy as you want, depending if you want this to be way more pronounced. When drawing the mouth, I start with a basic leaf shape with a V cutout on top and a line in between. And I draw this on top of line 6, and the width of this is normally wider than the width of an eye. But changing this width basically gives you either small lips or wide lips. And then changing the height of this shape can actually also determine how large and plump you want the lips to be or how thin the lips are. And then, of course, you can alter the shape to create a more realistic look of the lips. When drawing the ears, I like to start with a line that looks like the letter C. And the degree of this line's curve pretty much determines the size of the ear from the front view. So some people do have ears that stick out, so that will be a very curved C that we draw, whereas some people's ears don't really stick out as much, so the curve of the letter C that we draw isn't as pronounced. I also draw like this random looking line for a very simplified look of the ear. When it comes to drawing the hairline, I have 4 options that I use to create the different face shapes. So for example, we have an arch, which can create an oval face shape. This is very common. We have a pointed arch, which can create a diamond face shape. A straight line can create a square face shape. And lastly, a letter M can create a heart face shape. However, sometimes this won't even come in handy since hairlines are normally hidden due to different hairstyles, for example, when you draw someone with bangs. The last thing I like to add to my portraits are circles or ovals, and I actually use the circle that we initially drew for the head as a guide when placing the ovals for the cheeks. I do like to add these, but for you, it's optional. However, if you've been following my style and my art, you would know that I like to add these for my portraits. I also like to draw an oval on the forehead just between the eyebrows, as this will help me when I color the face in later. And then lastly, I like to add a circle on the chin just underneath the mouth, as this one helps me shape the jaw. And as a bonus, feel free to draw the neck. For a more realistic look and something that I personally like, I draw it almost as wide as the jaw. However, you can change the width to make it nice and slender. And once you've added in all of the facial features and the hair as well, which will hopefully be in another video, you finally have drawn a face. So when it comes to drawing faces and pretty much anything, I highly recommend using references, because reference images are very helpful when you're just starting out to draw. And it also gives you an idea of the diversity in faces, face shapes, and facial proportions. So I do hope that you've got an idea of what the basics are and how you can change that up through this video. I also highly recommend practicing regularly to try out other combinations and pretty much to experiment with the guidelines that I've shown you in this video. There are honestly no rules. Anything that I've showed you in this video only serves as a guide. So technically, it is up to you whether or not you want to follow them. But I do hope that you have found this helpful. In the description box are some links to resources and an exercise sheet that I've also included. And lastly, of course, I hope that your main takeaway from this is to have fun, because that's the most important part of drawing. Have fun and enjoy the process. So if you like this video, and I hope that you did, if you found this helpful, and I also hope that you did, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section down below of anything you'd like to see from me in the future, because I would like to bring this channel back to life. Subscribe if you haven't already for more content from me. Feel free to share this video as well. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Hi everyone, I am back with a new video, and this is a tutorial on how to draw hair. This video is also sponsored by Skillshare, an online learning community for creative people who are always looking to learn something, whether that's a new skill or to brush up on a skill you already have. I feel like this is a really great platform for that. They have so many online classes ranging from so many different topics, and just some of my favorites include illustration, graphic design, and something that I'm currently into, animation. I am so excited to share with you some classes that I recently watched and loved, which I will talk about at the end of the video. I will also recommend some classes that you can watch along with this tutorial to help you draw hair, so stay tuned for that. And because this video is sponsored by Skillshare, I have a special link in the description box below that will give the first 1,000 people to sign up using that link 2 months free of their premium membership. So a premium membership gives you unlimited access to all of their classes in the platform, which is normally valued at less than $10 a month if you pay annually. So 2 months of free unlimited content is a really good deal. So I highly recommend that you check them out and you join using that link if you haven't already. In order to draw hair, we first need to have a head, which I've already drawn, and if you want to learn how to draw the head and its facial features, I have a video for that. I also added the neck and shoulders for this demonstration. The first thing to determine is the hairline, which is located on the forehead, and it indicates the roots of the hair closest to the face. If you draw 7 lines equally spaced down the head, the second line on top is our guideline for the hairline. There are many different lines you can draw for the hairline depending on the face shape, and you can see them all on screen. But for the demonstration, let's keep it simple with an oval face shape, therefore an arched hairline. Next is to determine if there is a partition on the hair. As we know, hair can be parted on the left, center, or right side of the head. Therefore, the guideline we will use is a line located on the top of the head, and we can change the position depending on where the partition is located. The partition line that we draw also indicates the roots of the hair. And we can also change the length of this guideline to show different types of partitions. For the demonstration, we will have a center part on the hair, therefore the guideline is located on the center of the top of the head. And if you decide that a hairstyle doesn't have a partition, you don't have to draw this guideline. Next is to determine if there is a hair accessory or anything that's gathering or pulling hair strands together. For example, if hair is tied in a ponytail, this means that hair strands gather to a point where the hair tie is located. So we add a guideline, which I will call the gather point. This is located anywhere where there is hair. And we can change the position and length of this guideline depending on the hair accessory. For the demonstration, I'm going to tuck some hair behind her ear, which isn't a hair accessory, but it acts like one as it gathers hair to that one spot. And because of this, the guideline I used is not a point, but instead a line that follows the top of the ear. And once again, if you decide that a hairstyle doesn't have any hair accessories, you don't have to draw this guideline. Now that we have the guidelines in place, let's draw the strands of the hair. And there are two curves that I like to use. The first one is the S curve, which I use to draw long hair strands. So that's what I'm predominantly using for the demonstration. Keeping in mind that hair grows from the hairline and the partition line, this is where we start to draw our S curves. It follows the shape of the top of the head and it falls down to the shoulders. And depending on the type of hair, we can change the degree of the S curve, and you can also make it irregular. So a subtle S can be used for a natural straight hair, and a strong S can be used for wavy hair. You can also repeat the number of S curves in that strand to create curly hair or kinky hair. So if you draw these curves repeatedly side by side, you get something that vaguely resembles hair. That's pretty much the idea of hair strands. However, I personally don't like to draw every single strand of hair. Rather, I like to think of hair in bunches or in bulk. In order to draw that, let's take our single strand of hair and draw a similar looking strand next to it, but draw it on an angle. This way, the lines meet at one point and we get a pointed end. Another way is to draw the letter S starting from the top tip of the strand and making sure they meet again at the bottom tip. Now, let's draw a letter S again, starting from the top tip, but this time it doesn't meet at the bottom tip. And if we draw a horizontal line at the bottom, we get a flat end. Basically, we've just done 4 different ways to draw bunched up strands of hair. And that's what I'm using for the demonstration. To give it a layered look, some hair strands are shorter than others. I also make sure to vary the S curves that I draw so it looks a bit natural. And sometimes I change the direction of the hair to create some flyaways, and it just adds movement to the hair. I also like to vary the line thickness, where a thicker line is used to indicate a bulk of hair and thinner lines are used for detail. This is where the second curve comes in handy. This is the C curve, which I use to draw short hair strands as well as details for the hair. Similar to the S curve, we can once again change the degree of the curve so it almost looks like a straight line, and you can make it as irregular as you want, depending on which part of the hair you're drawing. For the details of the hair, because the hair isn't as wavy, the curve I'm using is a very subtle curve. I will also be using this for the part of the hair coming down from the partition line to the ear, where I've drawn a gather line. As you can see, the hair starts from the partition line and every single strand meets at the gather line. The idea behind this is that the hair is being pulled from the root to behind the ear, and the hair falls back down to the neck and the shoulders. I then continue to draw the rest of the hair, as well as add some details that I feel are necessary, but that pretty much explains the foundations of hair. You can use these guidelines and curves to create a variety of hair types and styles, allowing you to experiment and use this as a starting point to stylize and create different characters. As you can see on screen, the guidelines can move around and change to your discretion. You can create short hair, long hair, hair that's tied up, or hair that's kept down, braids and updos. The basics are there. And now it's up to you on what you want to create with it. And as I mentioned before, I've included some resources from Skillshare down below which I believe are really helpful when drawing hair. I really liked Hairstyles 101, Draw and Color Hair for Character Design by Maria Leah Malandrino. I think that would be a great follow-up video to this, as she talks about how to draw hair for different characters and personalities. This one isn't hair related, but I absolutely loved the animation classes by Libby Vanderplug and Manon Luart. I'm not sure if I'm saying their names correctly, but they both inspired me to improve my animation skills, which I've applied onto this video, and I hope that you guys appreciate the little animations I did to help aid my tutorial. I will link all of the classes down below, so I highly recommend that you check them out. A few final tips are to, of course, practice and don't be afraid to use reference photos. I think it'll be very helpful to see a reference image and identify where the hairline is, the partition line is, and if there are any gather points or gather lines on the hairstyle. I think this will help a great deal when it comes to tackling hair, which can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. And that is it for this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, share, and let me know your thoughts on this tutorial. I would greatly appreciate your feedback and take it on board for my future tutorials. If you follow this tutorial, tag me on social media as well. I would love to see it. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos and push that notification button to know when I upload. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one.